Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Good morning, welcome to History in the Kitchen. I'm Lacey and I'm joined by Rachel over there on the other camera. And we are gonna get started this morning with one of my favorite recipes. We're making grits. We're also doing a bonus recipe, which you might have noticed when you registered for this program. I'm actually gonna get that one started really quick. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on it today because this is one of the very first recipes that we ever did for History in the Kitchen. And if she hasn't already, Rachel will be dropping a link for that session into the chat in just a moment. So I'm going to walk you through it really quickly. We're making cooked greens. My pot is already preheated, and I'm just about to dump this nice little batch of salt pork in there to get that a good sear. You can see my pot is real hot because it started smoking the moment I dropped that in. So I'm going to turn the heat down just a smidge and give that a good stir. Get that going. Ultimately, what we're trying to do, my pot's really hot.
That the stove in here is persnickety.
There we go. Got that pot to cool off for me. So we're gonna let that sear off just a little bit, just to start getting that caramelization on the edge of the salt pork. So I'm gonna let those heat back up a little bit over a low heat this time. And get that started. We've got our salt pork now very nicely cooked off. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in the greens.
I do want to say to give props where it's due that our grits this morning are from Deep Roots Milling, who mills at Woodson's Mill in Roseland, Virginia. And that mill was built in 1790. And the best part is the stones they're using. They've been using them since 1840. And if you have a mill near you, they often sell their own grinds, which is great. And I encourage everyone to see what their local mills are doing. I'm going to put up the recipe. So Lacey was working on the cooked greens, which is just you brown the salt pork and then you add the mixed greens, whichever. Lacey, I think we have mustard greens and kale this morning. And she's going to add some water, and then it's just going to sit there for a long time. And for the grits, you can see it's just water and grits. But I'm going to switch to the next page because this is the page where a lot of you know that we normally have a recipe. And we don't have a recipe for this because it comes down to us through oral history. So there's a lot of debate about where grits came from. There's some views that it actually came from Africa, and then some views that it was just an American version of the Mesoamerican and Native American recipes. Where do we get these grits are from Deep Roots Milling at Woodson's Mill in Roseland, Virginia. But I do know that we have a couple of other mills around the area, and they also have, grits and cornmeal and flour and buckwheat and whatever else that they're milling. Derek, the West Coast kid. Derek, I'm a Massachusetts girl. I'm going to come out right here and I'm going to admit to all of you, I have never eaten grits. There's someone in here from Salem, Mass. I want to know if she ever had grits because it was not a thing when I was a kid. The grits at your grocery store are usually going to be with the other grains. And Lacey, you can see on Lacey's screen that she has grits right there. So we actually have three different kinds of grits this morning. We have white, red, and yellow, and they're all just different forms of corn. And these are all slow cooking grits. Our quick cooking grits, these are just regular stone ground grits. But Derek, usually it's just in the, in with the flour and the cornmeal, there should be grits. Red grits, I know they're very cool looking. They're from a corn called Bloody Butcher corn. It is a beautiful corn, and it's one of the oldest documented Sorry, it's one of the oldest documented corns in America.
And so I've gotten that to a point where I'm going to put a lid on it and keep it on super low, and we'll come back to it in a little bit. So I'm going to get started on our grits. And it sounds like you guys explored the recipe already, Rachel. Is that right?
Yep, we did.
Beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my burner on. I'm going to be cooking up here on this burner and go ahead and add my cup of water. So we're working with a cup of water and half a cup of grits today. And I'm going to get that water up to a boil.
So the cooked greens are just put it all in there and wait for a good long time.
Stir it every once in a while.
Stir it every once in a while.
My pot doesn't have a very even bottom though, so it's doing a spin cycle on me. Did you also already talk about hominy, Rachel, or just about grits?
No, we just talked about grits, and then we got you back. So, but I just want to say that Derek from California has also had grits, so it's not just me.
No, I knew it wasn't just you, but I did have a moment of like, I guess I really am a Southern girl because I ate grits all the time as a kid. We have a resource list that we're going to share with you at the end with a recipe that I, no lies, ate probably once a week for like 6 months straight, which is a vegan grits recipe by a Black creator named Bryant Terry. I love grits. They're easy. You can do a lot of things with them. So they're very adaptable to whatever it is that you want to be doing. And I'm just starting to get first little curls of steam on my water over there. We're making a small batch of grits. You can, of course, multiply this recipe many times over and make this for many, many people, but we're doing a quick and easy version of this slow cooked grits.
Lacey, are quick cooked grits just, par cooked?
They're typically finer ground in my experience. You won't find, sorry, I got a little bit of water on the bottom of my pot here. You typically won't find them this coarsely ground in quick cooked grits. They'll look closer to like cream of wheat in texture. But they are, they'll take about 5 minutes or less. If I'm in a quick and fast mood, I'll cook those in the microwave.
So I'm learning along with all of you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, love me some grits. All right, we're getting our first little bubbles. I don't know if you guys can see them on the camera. I know this pot is kind of off camera a little bit, but it's the right size burner for this pot and the amount of grits that we're cooking today. Yep, but I'm just trying to get that water up to a nice rolling boil. Because it's a small amount of water, we're getting there pretty fast.
Lacey, did you put the salt in the cooked greens already, or do you do it at the end?
No, I just put salt pork in the cooked greens today. I think I'm going to put a little bit of salt in the grits this morning, but it's all up to your personal flavor. I could at this point actually go ahead and add some red pepper flakes. So I'm going to add just a little spoonful of those. And I'm going to add a little bit of water because there wasn't a whole lot of washing water left on the greens. Just to help them along and create that really beautiful pot liquor. So I'm going to give that a stir.
So do open them and check on them every once in a while, and if they need more water.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some liquid will cook out of them. You can see some of the greens are already starting to get a nice cook on them. They're turning that really bright green, which they get before they cook down a little bit further. So those are looking great right now. And my water for my grits, I don't know if y'all can see that on camera, has come up to a nice rolling boil. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of my grits in all at once right now. And a pinch of salt. Give that a nice stir. Let it boil for just another moment or two longer. And then this is another low and slow one. So I got a nice boil coming back up again, and I'm going to turn it down. No more modern recipes if you're used to making things like shrimp and grits, cheesy grits. You might add some of this water now, and then partway through the cooking to help keep that creaminess, add in some milk or some cream, and then right at the end of cooking, add in some cheese.
Question for you, Lacey.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the mixture of greens that you are using, and can you just use one kind?
You absolutely can just use one kind. I did choose to use both collard and turnip greens because I like the little bit of a bite that turnip greens give. But you can absolutely use just one kind of greens. Or you could mix it up, and you could even throw in kale, beet greens, mustard greens. Oh goodness, all kinds of stuff. So you might notice this is one that I am stirring kind of frequently because we don't want it to burn to the bottom of the pot. And these are soaking up water a little bit more rapidly than some of the other grits that I'm used to. So I am actually, I think, going to add just a little bit more water today.
Our local grocery store actually sells a mix of already mixed mix of greens.
Yeah. So Rachel, you said you had not yet talked about hominy, right?
Correct.
And nixtamalization.
Yes.
While we're waiting, because this is it today. It's a very easy recipe to get going. It just takes some time. Do you want to throw up our screen share so everybody can see what hominy looks like? So corn, as it was consumed by Native peoples prior to European colonization, was most often in recipes like this one, undergoing a process called nixtamalization. And nixtamalization is when that corn was soaked or boiled in a solution of lime. And we're not talking about lime like the green fruit tree. We're talking about lime like quicklime. And what that very alkali solution did was to help break down the grains of the corn and make the nutrients within it more bioavailable. So I think Rachel has up on the screen, or is working on getting up on the screen, a picture of what.
Sorry, ignore that side part. Sorry. Yep.
So Rachel has up on screen a picture of hominy right now. This is what hominy looks like when it's cooked. Many people around the world, particularly in Southern America, still consume hominy today. I grew up eating hominy as well as corn and corn grits. And in fact, we did a recipe. Rachel, do you remember when we did batter cakes?
It was really early because Laura did yes, exactly, Derek, like that I can't pronounce. Lacey just corrected my pronunciation of pozole earlier.
Pozole. Yeah. It is absolutely in pozole. So if you're out, I feel like I heard some California folks out there. Yes. You might be familiar with pozole because that is a very northern Mexican dish, if I remember correctly. I'm coming over to my cooked greens real quick. Those are looking beautiful, cooking down lovely.
I do know that you can buy it in a can. Is that the way it comes, or are there other ways that you can buy hominy?
You can buy hominy dried, but most of us in American culture today will be used to finding it in a can, typically from Goya in the grocery store. But yeah, what I was trying to say is we did an 18th century recipe that used hominy in the batter. It was a pancake type dish with hominy cooked into it. So this is something that Western Europeans were aware of. And then hominy, in order to make grits for our lovely dish today, was dried and ground.
Lacey and I were talking earlier about, for a very simple grain, corn is very
so diverse. The number of things you could do with corn is amazing.
It's really amazing how many things you can do with corn and how
Yeah, the only
many
thing
ways you can sort of get to the same result at the end.
yeah, I would say one of the very few things that it's not very good at is working in yeast environments because it doesn't have enough of the right kind of sugars. Which, if you saw our episode last month, which I have not been able to yet get the recording online, we struggled with our English cornmeal bread when they were trying to make an English style bread with corn, which is a very different grain from wheat or rye, which they were used to.
Derek is starting to think of some Southern Sonoran fusion ideas. Derek, share with us what you're thinking.
Yeah, we're always excited to hear more about food here at Gunston. If you haven't guessed by the fact that we've now been doing History in the Kitchen for 5 years.
I have to say, though, I've been like joking about how you never tried it. It never occurs to me to order it because I didn't grow up with it. So I'm very excited to try this today.
Oh, some of the best. This is looking really good, by the way. So I think I'm going to add just a smidge more water, but you can see it's starting to take on that kind of like thicker oatmeal-like consistency, which is what you're looking for in grits. But like I said, this is I have never cooked with this particular kind of grits before, so they're not cooking up quite the way I'm used to them working.
Which is collard green tamales.
Ooh.
Derek, you want to come visit us? We'll taste test that. Can you add things to the grits like corn kernels or make it sweet?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Rachel and I were talking about this when she copped to never having had grits before. I was like, are you kidding me?
So we had cream of wheat when I was growing up.
I absolutely ate sweet grits when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was all about butter and brown sugar or butter and jam. And now as an adult, I much prefer them in a savory fashion. I'll cook up the grits, put a little bit of butter on them, cheese. And then I often will top them with something like the cooked greens or a fried egg, depending on what I have in the kitchen and what vibe I'm feeling.
But don't ever ask anyone on the internet whether grits should be savory or sweet, because I fell into some rabbit holes yesterday. There's a lot of argument on the internet.
Yeah. One other thing and a recipe that we have in the resource list that Rachel, why don't you go ahead and put that resource list in the chat, Rachel? And we'll make that available online afterwards as well. One of my favorite ways to eat grits is after you cook them and they cool, the mixture thickens quite a lot. And you can pop them you can make them into cakes and then fry them. And so one of the recipes that we included in the resource list is by a Black creator. He does cheesy fried grits cakes. Amazing.
I also, when I was looking for recipes to add to the resource list, there were definitely people who cooked them and then baked them sort of in a casserole.
I've done that too. I've done grits casseroles with like sausage and cheese. You could also probably go sweet. Like I could imagine putting like a sweetened ricotta with jam or like cream cheesy mixture and jam and bake it. And that would be really, really good.
No, Derek is torturing us with his menu ideas.
Jeez Louise. I mean, I'm starving here, man.
He's thinking a dry menudo using grits and greens with menudo meat and a butter salsa. Was that what you meant? Or a
like a beurre blanc.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Derek, come visit. Yeah.
I was going to say, Derek, please join us again.
Yeah.
I think this is your first time coming to History in the Kitchen. Please come back. Yeah, this is perfect. This is an absolutely amazing consistency for grits right here. It's really thick, but it's still moving. Some people like them super, super creamy. I'm not in that boat most of the time, although one of the best dishes of shrimp and grits that I've ever had was very, very creamy and was in Charleston at a restaurant down there. But I do tend to like them a little bit on the drier side, but it's really, really, truly up to personal preference.
Alice has a question. Can you reheat grits and get the same original texture, or do you add water to reheat?
Add water. They will be very, very thick. And in order to reconstitute that consistency, you will need to add water.
And it doesn't need to be water depending on what you're using. It could be some sort of broth.
Milk, it could be chicken broth, it could be whatever. Totally up to personal preference, but the corn continues to soak up liquid over time, so it's not going to be the same consistency at all if you put them in the fridge overnight. So I got a little butter there. I'm gonna sprinkle just a smidge more salt on there. We'll let that butter melt. I'm gonna take a look at our cooked greens again and see how they're doing. Oh, these are starting to look beautiful. So cooked greens are a dish that you want to cook super low and slow for like a long time. We're doing a quick and dirty batch of cooked greens today. Right now, they'll still have a lot of tooth in them, meaning they'll be a little crunchy. But the absolute best cooked greens, you cook them super low, super slow for a really long time, and they just melt in your mouth. And we've been talking today a lot about modern grits and how people eat them today. And you may have noticed that as we've been talking about, they're very stereotypical, like Southern American food. And in large part, that is because people who were enslaved got access to corn like this and grits from Native Americans, and then subsequently were being given them in rations by their white enslavers, and still with some of those interconnections with Native Americans, they were making porridges like this one. And so working with new foods to them, foods that they recognize, doing cooked vegetable dishes and with chicken and a variety of other materials that they had available to them, they were the progenitors of this really stereotypical Southern soul food idea. So we see a lot of these dishes coming out of the hands of enslaved cooks.
And again, when I was looking for recipes yesterday, it was really fascinating to see people like Michael Twitty, who is both Southern African American and Jewish as well, has some recipes where those two things are fused, which are really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has some really great recipes, and one of the links that we have put in our resource list has one of Michael Twitty's recipes in it. He's in the shrimp and grits article. Any other thoughts or questions from anyone?
The moving pot is funny. I like it.
Yeah. This one came from my house. Well, my parents' house, technically. And we boiled it dry making tamales. Can you tell what part of the country my dad's from? He's from Deep South Texas.
That would explain why you were eating.
Oh gosh, yeah, 100%.
Lacey, you were in Germany.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, I did. For anybody who doesn't know, I did grow up in Germany. And my parents, one of whom was born and raised in Texas, and the other one was born and raised outside of Seattle, Washington, met in Germany, and thus I grew up there.
Grits don't seem a typical German food.
Oh, they absolutely are not. No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, no, cooked greens and grits. I've been eating these since I was a little kid. Black-eyed peas on New Year's.
Yeah, we had sauerkraut on New Year's for good luck, which I think is Pennsylvania Dutch.
That's right. Yeah, the black-eyed peas are definitely Southern American. And again, a food given to America by people who were enslaved. Black-eyed peas are actually native to Africa and were brought over with people who were enslaved as a way to feed them to some extent, but possibly also secreted by them so that they had food they were familiar with as they were being moved away from everything they knew. All right. I don't know if I have any more patience. This. I don't know if you can smell it down there, Rachel. It smells delightful and I'm starving.
Because Derek has been torturing us with his recipe.
Okay, so I'm trying to get a little bit of salt pork in there with my cooked greens. You can see I got a couple of pieces there. And this, like, with an egg, absolutely perfect, like, complete breakfast for me. All right, there she is, grits and cooked greens. I'm ready for it.
Karen, I know you were from the middle of the country. What was your sort of porridgey grain when you were growing up? Like mine was cream of wheat. Lacey's was grits.
I mean, we ate a lot of oatmeal too, but grits definitely. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
It's so good. My cooked greens could use a little bit more salt, but I've got a nice balance of spice, a little bit of salt, and that nice hit of butter. Of course, when we're talking about people of African descent who might have been eating this in the 18th century, they probably didn't have access to butter nearly so often. That might have been a very special treat because, of course, that was what was the main milk product being consumed by people like the Masons. But they might have had other pieces of fat that could be rendered down, like the salt pork, to add that nice fatty mouthfeel to the dish.
Lacey, question: are grits like porridge?
Sorry, mouthful. So most Americans and people of European descent, when we say porridge, they think automatically of oatmeal. But there are, in fact, lots of different kinds of porridges out there. We have made one today. Porridge can also be made out of rye, cream of wheat, buckwheat, millet. Those are all porridges that can be found in other parts of the world as well. Congee is actually a Chinese porridge made with rice. Oh, I got a red pepper flake. Whew. Y'all have had amazing questions today. I'm so glad. And I hope you're enjoying it.
I was distracted. Right now, Karen is giving us recipes.
Of course, Karen's giving us recipes. For those of you who are new to us, Karen is one of our repeat attendees to History in the Kitchen, and always has lots to say. Good things. I'm not harping on Karen here. We love having Karen with us.
Oh, the Isabel, you must be the from the UK, our UK visitor. She said she's British and it's always been oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Any recommendations on sources for red grits? Again, these are from local-ish. It's farther west in Virginia.
Southern West Virginia.
But I would check if there are any mills near you to see if they have any. I think the Bloody Butcher corn is a lot of that is grown here in the Mid-Atlantic and in Appalachia. So it's possible that your local mill won't have red grits. These are all local. This mill happens to use local grains as well. These were from Deep Roots Milling, and Lacey, I guess, can tell us whether they're good The yellow ones at least are good.
They're tasty. Yeah, it's a good grit.
Um,
I will say that if you're interested in seeing them, I cannot remember if they sell them online or not. But both Mount Vernon's grist mill, so George Washington's Mount Vernon, their grist mill is still active. And Colvin Run Mill, which is in Vienna, Virginia, both with active grist mills, have ground a variety of different colors of grits. And I think I have seen both red, yellow, and white at those locations. But like I said, I can't remember if either of them sell them online.
And I think both like Plymouth Plantation and Old Sturbridge Village also have local.
Yes.
So your
Yes.
history museums near you might also be your living history museums. All right, Alice is originally from North Carolina, and the way that you've made both the grits and the collards is very different from how she was taught to make it from her grandmother's, but your way is much faster.
Yeah, it helped that I was making a very small amount so that I could do it in this time frame. So it's very quick. But yes, I know that there are many, many, many different ways to make grits and to make cooked greens. And I would love to hear more about how that is, how your family makes them, because that is the beauty of cooking, is that we all bring our different experiences and our different ways of doing things, and we do things because they taste good. And yeah, it's really amazing to see how people do things differently.
So Isabella was actually born in the UK, but is from Spain, is living in Spain. So in Spain, obviously, Spain has its own version of this, which is polenta.
Polenta. Yep, and you might see grits sometimes labeled as polenta as well, or vice versa. They are different grinds on the corn. I can't remember if the corn used in polenta is nixtamalized or not. It usually is in grits, although there are some modern brands that do not nixtamalize their corn.
You guys have been a fun group.
Absolutely. Thank you for bearing with our technical difficulties this morning. We really appreciate it. We are headed towards the end of our time today. And I will say this, I second Rachel wholly. This has been an absolutely amazing experience today. And I hope you'll join us next month for our last episode of this season. We will be making Charlotte. This is essentially a stuffed bread pudding. Our guest from England who is originally from the
I just put the resource list, a PDF of the resource list.
May recognize Charlotte. And this is the, I believe, ancestor of Charlotte Russe, which started coming out in the 19th century. But in any case, we're going to stuff some bread pudding and have an absolutely amazing little apple stuffed bread pudding next month.
And I feel like the apple Charlotte might be our fanciest recipe we've ever made.
I think it is.
Looking for recipes that we can do in the short time it's
a fun challenge. So we're happy to take any last questions anyone has.
Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, this has been absolutely amazing.